Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. I am Farron Cousins, sitting in for David Pakman today. And hey, don't forget, you can find me on all my social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Same name on all of them, at Farron Balanced. That is also the name of my personal YouTube channel. And of course, you can find me at youtube.com/TheRingOfFire. Let's talk about the January 6th Select Committee to round out this day's show, right? After all, it now appears they're going after sitting Republican members of Congress. They submitted a request this week to Republican Congressman Scott Perry. And Perry made headlines recently when it was revealed that he was one of the, I guess you'd call it a ringleader, of some of the other House Republicans who were working to get the DOJ to intervene and overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Scott was kind of the ringleader. And now Mr. Perry, after the committee said we would like some documents from you and of course we would like for you to sit down and have a chat with us, has announced that no, not gonna do it. Because he says the committee is somehow illegitimate and unconstitutional. Let me read this statement that Perry put out on Tuesday after deciding he was not going to work with the committee. I stand with immense respect for our Constitution, the rule of law, and the Americans I represent who know that this entity is illegitimate and not duly constituted under the rules of the U.S. House of Representatives. I decline this entity's request and will continue to fight the failures of the radical left who desperately seek distraction from their abject failures of crushing inflation, a humiliating surrender in Afghanistan, and the horrendous crisis they created at our border. Sometimes, folks, there's so much stupid in one statement that it hurts. It hurts us to read these things. It's painful to have those words come out of my mouth, even if they're not from me, they're from him. I don't like that at all. So, let's address a couple things real quick here from Mr. Perry. You're calling the Democrats losers? You're saying they can't get over something? Dude, the reason they want to talk to you in the first place is because you tried to overturn the election. You tried to weaponize the Department of Justice to do your bidding, and illegally, unconstitutionally, by the way, since you seem to love the Constitution, overturn the duly elected government of the United States at the time, so you don't get to lecture anyone about what is and is not constitutional. And of course, yes, the Select Committee is 100% constitutional. That was actually something I had discussed in yesterday's program as well, with Alex Jones' lawsuit saying the committee's not constitutional. No, it is. Courts have ruled over the years, yes, the House of Representatives does in fact have this authority, going all the way back to the first, basically criminal inquiry, I guess you could call it, that the House conducted all the way back in 1795. So, learn your history, Scott Perry. Learn your Supreme Court cases, Congressman Perry, so that you won't make such a damn fool of yourself in the future. But it is what it is, right? Mr. Perry's doing what he knows. He's worried, he's panicked. He understands that the text messages that have already come out from him are really, really bad. And the committee is doing what they should be doing and now officially focusing on these members of Congress. The problem that I have with them going after these members of Congress, because let's not forget Jim Jordan is also involved in this. Gomert, Brooks. All of these people do need to be investigated. They do need to be called in front of the committee. But that's not enough. Heck, we also need to find out why Lauren Boebert was, live tweeting Nancy Pelosi's location during all of this. She'd only been a member of Congress for, at that point, really a matter of hours. So why was she doing that? So that also needs to be brought up in front of the committee. The problem I have is that that's not good enough. Just bringing these people in front of the committee, getting your hands on these records, their call logs, text messages, whatever it is, and getting their testimony. We've seen a lot of this already. The problem is, even if you get horrible information on any of these individuals, the most you can do is recommend criminal charges for them. You're not going to vote to expel them. And even if you attempted to vote to expel them, you wouldn't have the votes to do it. That's what drives me crazy about all of this. Because these members of Congress do need to be expelled. It is time for that. Yes, we can go through due process. We'll make sure it's all fair and neat and, cross our T's, dot our I's, all of that. But if you ask me personally right now, I think these people need to be expelled. I think their actions, based on the text messages that, again, are already readily available, I think they rise to sedition. I think they rise to treason. We are talking about elected members of Congress trying to convince the Department of Justice to overturn what effectively was the government-elect of the United States. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, really, when you look at it that way. That would constitute treason. Even trying to tell them to do these things would likely rise to the level of sedition. So how are these people still serving in Congress? And the answer is the Republicans. If the Democrats had the numbers, I would like to think they would go ahead and vote to expel these members. Right? I'd like to think that. Heaven only knows sometimes what the Democrats are actually going to do. But without those Republican numbers, it's not going to happen. Without enough Republicans standing up and saying, this person is so toxic, not just to my party, but to the country itself, and I believe that their behavior does rise to the level of criminal activity, and I want them gone. Without enough Republicans to say that, it's not going to happen. And then, of course, maybe we get charges referred from this, and then maybe these people get prosecuted, and maybe they get convicted. At this point, we're talking about 4 or 5 years out into the future, probably at that point. They can serve another, 2.5 terms in the amount of time that may take. Think of the damage that these individuals could do in that time. It's not good enough. Letting them sit there while this happens is not good enough. At the very least, we need some kind of mechanism to where they could at least be suspended. And I know there is currently no mechanism like that in the House. Maybe that's something we work on. Maybe that's an amendment to the Constitution. Maybe we throw that in with the term limit amendment that I also feel we desperately need. But until this matter is settled, until these people cooperate and turn over everything and the committee finishes its work and issues its final report, these individuals should have their votes suspended. They should be stripped of their committees immediately. And that should be that. That's what we should do. But again, there's no constitutional mechanism for that to happen. So we need an amendment to give Congress the authority to do that, I believe. I don't think they could just change their own rules to do that. So that's what needs to happen.